All right, welcome. Today we're going to dig into a really timeless story about a master sculptor and his son. It's an incredible parable, really, about what it means to grow, what success looks like, and the hidden trap of thinking you finally made it to the top.
You know, this quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of our story. We all chase that feeling of satisfaction, right? We think it's the finish line. But what if that feeling, that contentment, is actually the very thing that stops us cold? So that brings up this huge question. Is perfection the goal we should all be running towards, or is it actually a dead end? This story suggests something kind of radical, that the real secret to success might just be staying a little bit dissatisfied. Let's see why.
Okay, so our story kicks off with a master sculptor and his son, who was just unbelievably talented, learning the craft together in their little workshop. The son was a true prodigy, creating these breathtaking sculptures even when he was just a kid. And while his father was incredibly proud, he never, ever let him get comfortable. Every time the son finished a new piece, his father would look it over and always find at least one tiny flaw, one little thing that could be better.
Now, what's so interesting is how the son handled this. For years, he didn't get defensive. He didn't take it personally. He saw those critiques as a roadmap to getting better. He just soaked it all up, honed his craft, and his skill grew and grew until, get this, his own sculptures became more famous and even sold for more money than his father's.
But here's where the story takes a turn. All that success, all that praise, it started to change him. His confidence began to harden into something else, complacency.
So one day, the father points out another small imperfection, just like he always did. But this time, the son just snapped. His pride just boiled over. He angrily shouted, "You always find flaws. Do you really think you're the better artist? Don't you know my work sells for more than yours?" He declared his work was now perfect and that he didn't need his father's advice anymore.
And you know what? The father didn't argue. He didn't fight him on it. He simply respected his son's wishes and just went silent. From that day on, the critique stopped. The son was finally on his own, free to create his perfect art.
And for a little while, everything seemed fine. But then, something started to happen. The praise for his work began to quiet down. The big commissions stopped coming in, and the value of his supposedly perfect sculptures, it started to nosedive. So now he's confused, he's worried, his reputation is tanking, and he finally swallows his pride and goes back to his father. He had to know what went so wrong.
He basically asked the question that's just eating him alive. How could this happen? My work was perfect, everyone loved it, why is it failing now?
And the father's answer? Oh, it was so simple but so profound. He told him, "Son, this happened to me years ago. The very moment you started believing you were perfect, you stopped growing."
He explained that his whole goal with the critiques was to prevent this one thing, santusht, which means satisfaction. See, that state of contentment in any creative work, it can lead to stagnation. He was deliberately keeping his son just a little bit hungry, a little dissatisfied, because that hunger is the fuel for getting better.
So you see, that criticism, it was never meant to be an insult. Not at all. It was actually a gift. It was a chance to see a flaw you couldn't see yourself and an opportunity to take that next step towards true mastery.
Okay, so what does all this mean for us, right? How do we actually apply this ancient wisdom? Well, the story gives us this perfect metaphor for our own lives.
The father shared this analogy with his son. Think of your journey, your growth, as climbing a huge mountain that has no top. There is always higher to go. The moment you plant a flag and say, "I've reached the peak," well, that's the moment you stop climbing.
And in that analogy, what's criticism? That feedback that can be so tough to hear? It's your compass. It's the very thing that shows you where the next handhold is, the path to the next level. Without it, you're just stuck, lost on the side of the mountain.
So what's the big takeaway here? A few things, really. First, we need to learn to embrace a little dissatisfaction. See it as fuel, not failure. Second, we have to actually go looking for constructive criticism, not run from it. And finally, we have to truly believe that our best work, it's still ahead of us. No matter how good you get, always stay a student.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. A question for you. Where in your own life have you kind of decided you're perfect, or at least good enough? What climb have you stopped? And what higher peak is waiting for you if you just had the courage to look for the next flaw?